Alright, today we're having a look at Swampland by T-Bone Stakely. Alright, so here we are in Swampland by T-Bone Stakely, and a little bit of truth in advertising up front. I have played this level before, and I've seen this level played by Little Big Des. It's something that stood out to me very strongly. It's something that I would like to show to folks. It is really, really nice. It's really quite smooth. We basically are tasked with finding the shrines and saving the land. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to see if we can get all of them in our usual 5 minutes. There's a lot of really great animation going on here. There's a nice map and control if you hit the touchpad. It's a beautiful map, but when it turns back into the land, that really sells it for me. Very delightful, very solid animations on our character. I have completely forgotten how to shoot. Alright, there we are. Now, how do we aim? Okay, there we are. Good. See, even if it's not a very first look, a first impression, your girl Risco still forgets stuff, so it's definitely worthwhile. Now, we see some enemies over there a little bit to the right of the screen. I don't want to deal with them right now. I do think, particularly the land-based enemies are kind of the weakest part of this level. They don't quite have the same nice look as other aspects of the level do. They're not as nicely animated, and there are some feedback issues that we discussed on stream. If you do follow on stream, then you may know some of the things that I'm going to be saying about this, but I just love the overall look of the level. I love the way that the character moves and the character feels. Got that really nice sword thrust attack. You can do various combos with that. They're not, it's not Bayonetta near Automata levels of smoothness. It's not silky smooth, but still it is really nice for what we've got as far as an early Dreams game. But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna basically kill everything that comes into our path. We got a little, some flying bat actions here. I don't know why I put action in plural there. Just one bat action. Is a bat actor. He's a bat master. He's a bat master's son. And I don't know if we're gonna be able to get all of the shrines because we only got 2 minutes 20 seconds left, but I am kind of blurbling on a little bit as we play. So now the bats, I kind of like the bats. These things I kind of don't. There's very little like tactile feedback as to hitting them. They do change color a little bit when you hit them, so there's some visual feedback, and they do have the HP bars above their head. Your mileage may vary whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a little bit non-diegetic, to be perfectly honest, but we are giving up a little bit in the way of diegesis to have the HUD on the screen. And I do think that the level is benefited by... I can't get up that rock. Come on, get onto the platform. That's not the level spot, by the way. That is completely my fault. I don't even know if we need to go up here. I feel like if we come around from the other side, we'll have a much better route. And I know that I missed a shrine down by the lake. Not down by the river. If you're a rider, you could need a lot of papers. Rolling papers for when you're living in a van down by the river. We might be able to hit that, but I think we're going to circle around so we can see as much of the level as we can. We got a nice little lava area here. Only 15 seconds, Janakatet. 56 seconds. We're not going to make that. Not going to make that jump. We do have a double jump. It is a pretty decent one. The lava, if I recall correctly, is a one-hit KO. I don't really want to test that out right now, but I could certainly test it later just so that I give you the best information possible. Oh my god, there's lava bats. We totally saw the lava bats. I'm only panicking because it's funny to panic. But I think we should be able to get at least to Shrine 7. That's this one here. Before we run out of time. We only got 18 seconds left. I love the little sound effect that's playing and the animation as well when we pop these shrines. It is really, really nice. It gives a nice sense of building energy and building emotion. But we'll talk about that more when we get back to the hub, and we'll see you there. See yas! And we're back, and Swampland by T-Bone Stakely, and I'd say it's a really solid on yellow square. There are a few things that I feel like are pulling it down a little bit, but I really did enjoy this level an awful lot. And as I said, we did take a look at this level on stream, and I had seen this level played before by Little Big Dez, and it did kind of ring a couple of bells for me as something that I would like to take a bit of a closer look at myself. So we got on the show, and I do hope that people understand and forgive the fact that some of the episodes that we've been looking at on the show have been things that we have looked at on stream before. We talked about the time issue, and I'm trying to balance best putting together the episodes, but also, you know, actually living my life with the time that I have available to me outside of work. But anyways, Swampland, and to focus on the positive points of it, and there are quite a few positive points. Right off the bat, we've got a really nice intro section that stands out to me, particularly with the use of depth of field in the camera, where you've got like the middle ground is very sharp, but the foreground and the background are kind of blurred out, and I really like that technique when I see it come up. The dialogue, the story that's on the screen when you're actually doing that intro, it feels a little bit like a trailer to a video game as opposed to the actual intro to a level, but even still, they do kind of set up what we are supposed to be doing in a very clear way so that we can actually just get right into it. And the environment of the level, although it is relatively compact, I do think that it manages to pack in a lot of detail and a number of different kind of environmental types. We've got the lava section, of course. We've got a nice lakeland section with a dinosaur skull going on in it. We've got a little bit of the swampland, as they tell us it is supposed to be swampland. Some nice hills and ruins in there, and I think that was all really cool. The animations in the level are, for the most part, really quite top-notch. When you're getting close to the shrines, and not only animation, but there's a sound tone as well that plays to let you know that you're actually getting closer into a shrine, and I think that was really cool, that effect by itself. But the actually triggering the shrine and seeing it start to glow and the tendrils of light coming up underneath it to indicate that the shrine has been activated, that's really great. I thought that was really cool. Also, the animations on your character attacks, I thought that those were very slick looking. You've got a number of kind of combo attacks in there, and they're well handled, they're well animated. You've got little energy bits that are sparking off and swirling around you, and that's really super cool. It does lead into a bit of a negative point, though, for me that I felt, and that's the action side, the attack side of this level. It lacks a certain physicality to it. It lacks a certain oomph to it. And part of that, I feel, is due to the enemies that you are dealing with. You've got your ground-based enemies, and they look kind of like some kind of mutant Mr. Saturn from Earthbound or Mother, depending on where you're playing the game. They don't really do much. They kind of drift in towards you, and they'll bop you a little bit, and that's about it, to be honest. When you are actually attacking them, and there's no physical feedback, there's no feeling of oomph, no vibration in the controller that makes it feel like you're actually hitting an object. It just feels like you're kind of cutting through air, and that I felt was a bit of a shame. Now, we can't expect, I think, something like we mentioned in the video, like Bayonetta or Nier Automata, where there's a lot of feedback in there as to how you're affecting the enemies both visually and in a tactile sense, and that is asking a bit much in a early on Dreams level, but the lack of it did stand out to me a fair amount. Now, the flying enemies, those kind of fire bats, and I really liked just the look of those enemies, the animation of those enemies, and the fact that there is an auditory cue when the enemies are going to attack, and I thought that was really cool. That was really well handled. But the only way to really engage with those enemies is with the the long distance, you're firing a force as some kind of, I don't know, flame or energy beam dot from your head, and it's okay and it does the trick, but again, it lacks that kind of impact, it lacks that kind of oomph that I am in combat, and I felt that that was a little bit of a shame. Now, something that is kind of a bit unusual, because a lot of times in episodes recently, not recently, just in our episodes, and I've had a lot to say about how much I liked character design and how solid I felt character design has been in a number of the levels and creations that we've looked at, and I don't feel that here, really. I like the aspect that your character's face is kind of a glowing ball of light. It reminded me a lot of the engineer as described in Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart, not the shrimp-looking gribbly thing from actually the movie Hellraiser, but in the book the engineer is described as having a head of pure light, and that was kind of cool. But the actual character model, it doesn't really have a lot to stand out to it. It felt very stock, it felt very standard, and the running animation on the character model was a little bit off. It was a little bit unusual, so I really didn't feel myself kind of pulled into the character the way that I have in other creations, and that was a little bit of a shame. Other slightly negative points, there's only one checkpoint in the level, and while the level isn't really big, it isn't really beefy, but for example, like when you're in the lava section that's up in the corner of the map, and dying there before triggering the shrine, and you've got to go through all those jumps again to get back to that lava section. It would be nice if there had been, it would have been nice if there had been a couple of checkpoints, just, maybe in the corner areas of the map, so you don't have quite so much backtracking to do. There was also a little bit of an unusualness where dropping from certain heights would kill the character without much indication as to why that would be. I jumped off the kind of the hilltop, and before I was able to reach the actual bottom of the hill, I was killed. So it was a bit strange, a bit unusual, because it didn't feel like any of the heights that I was jumping from were really all that high, particularly with this type of level, with this type of environment. So that was a little bit of an unusualness, but still. As a first entry into what I hope is a continuing series, and T-Bone Stakely does tell us to expect more in the future, and I'm hoping for more in the future, as an entry point to that, I think it's really, really good. The level itself probably will take you under 10 minutes to actually explore your way through, find all the shrines, and complete, and I think it's absolutely a worthwhile investment of time. So, well done, T-Bone Stakely. I know it may feel like I highlight a number of negative points in the level, but really my takeaway, my take-home from it was that it was very enjoyable and it was a very good experience, and I do hope to see more from you. But I'm pretty sure that just about wraps it up for us here at Disco About. So, from me, Risco, here in Osaka, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you. Arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.